Okay, you ready? Yalda? Yalda?
Yes.
Oh, are you ready?
Mhm.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hamza Reed, and I'm the Director of Operations at the Multicultural Center. And I'd like to welcome all of you back to our Family First Center's weekly Wednesday webinar. Alhamdulillah, now presented with cooperation of ISGH, Anissa Hope Center, and Olive Branch Muslim Family Services. This webinar is presented every Wednesday at 11 o'clock. The format usually consists of a short presentation followed by a question and answer session at the end, where we will field questions from the audience down in the chat box below. Today's topic is going to be about learned happiness and will be presented by Sister Yalda Ahmadi. For those
Learned helplessness. Sorry to interrupt you, but
helpless,
learned
did I
helplessness.
say
You
happiness?
said learned happiness.
I apologize. I meant learned helplessness. Yes, thank you. That would be a mistake. Yes. For those of you who do not know about Sister Yalda, she earned her BA in psychology from Baylor University. She also received her master's in education and counseling from U of H. She is currently the program director at Olive Branch Muslim Family Services, whose mission is to strengthen, support, and empower individuals and family through counseling, education, and social services. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Sister Yalda.
All right. Assalamualaikum, everyone. My name is Yalda Ahmadi. I'm here to talk to you guys a little bit about learned helplessness. I think I always kind of preface this that we just usually skim over the topics. We can't cover everything. And if Hamza will give me permission to share my screen, I'll be able to do so.
You should be good.
All right. All right, let's get started. Bismillah. All right. Okay. So just again, just a disclaimer, we're not going in super depth into this topic, just an introduction, right? If something speaks to you today, of course, reach out to a helping professional, whether that's a school counselor, a mental health counselor, or just someone you can speak to about this sort of stuff if another adult. And so I do want to just plug real quick before we begin that Olive Branch is accepting new clients. We have 2 new counseling interns this summer and inshallah into the fall. And so our counseling services are free of charge with them. So we don't deny anyone, and they are able to do telehealth services. So we make it as accessible as possible on your end. You just need to show up. Find a private and confidential area you can speak confidently in, and take care of those needs that we sometimes neglect. And those services are also case management in addition to the mental health counseling. So the case management, I'll actually get a little bit into that through this, but essentially it is someone that is there professionally to check on you and monitor any progress, whether it's employment related, socially related, um, just to help you throughout the phases of life. Okay, so the theory of learned helplessness was developed by Martin Seligman and Steve Mayer in 1967. Martin Seligman actually went on to develop a lot of theories in positive psychology and the importance of positivity, really almost in response to some of his research here in behavior and this idea of learned helplessness. So what is learned helplessness? It's a little hard to explain, but I'll try my best. But essentially it comes down to someone has been conditioned to anticipate discomfort in some way without having a way to avoid it or make it stop. So they just feel like this discomfort is inevitable. And after enough conditioning, the person will stop any attempts to avoid this pain or discomfort, even if they see an opportunity to escape. And this is sometimes brought on by uncontrollable bad events, and that perception of the lack of control. And then they generalize their response and their behavior to this. And that feeling of helplessness becomes generalized, where they apply it in different facets of their life in similar situations that are kind of thrusted upon them. And essentially, again, it's just the passive resignation produced by repeated exposure to negative events that are perceived as unavoidable. You see this a lot with individuals that lack a sense of control or don't feel that they have any agency over themselves or over individuals and things that they should have agency over. Essentially, the belief becomes we cannot change the course of negative events. Failure is inevitable and undefeatable. Learned helplessness is a control problem, not competence. So these individuals are more than able to complete what they need to do, or whether it's a social scenario, or maybe it's an academic feat, or maybe it is a employment feat that they feel like they need to overcome, but feel like they cannot. So they know the need is there. They don't feel like they can do it. So I want to start with the common symptoms that we see often in children. You'll start seeing low self-esteem, frustration, passivity, sorry, lack of effort and giving up. I know my generation was one of the first generations that was accused, and I will say that they were there, but the helicopter parenting and over helicopter parenting, always hovering over the children, really took away a lot of sense of control from these kids that I guess had it really bad when it came to helicopter parents. When kids don't feel like they have any control or any agency, you start to see some of this develop because it's like no matter the outcome, it's being controlled by someone else. So in severe cases, this is kind of what you see from the children of parents that were severe helicopter parents. And so it is a cycle. Um, Children and individuals will feel like a sense of failure. They lack the effort or work avoidance. They don't do what they need to do. Then of course this affects low achievement, poor grades. They don't achieve what they need to, or it starts to really just pick away at their grades. And of course, this leads to continued negative attitudes. This idea that I can't do it, this feeling that I can't do it, and the continued I won't do it is where they kind of end up at. So, what do you do when someone is stuck here? Whether it's a child or an adult, or it's yourself. Sometimes within ourselves, it's important to recognize when we're stuck. And so recognize and accept your learned awareness. That is really big. Like, oh, wow, I am competent, but I've learned that I can't do it, or I've told myself that I can't do this. And that sometimes is a huge hurdle to cross over. A lot of times you need a helping professional like a mental health counselor to kind of get you to that point of recognition or that aha moment of, oh, this is what this has been. This is, I have been getting in my own way of doing these things. Um, Identifying limiting beliefs, reframing those beliefs into positive and optimistic light. So once you identify those beliefs are there, reframe it. Provide like an optimistic light over that. And a lot of time that involves monitoring your self-talk. Not all self-talk is negative, so it's not always negative self-talk, but turning that self-talk into I cannot do this to, well, why am I saying this to myself? Why am I saying I can't do this? And actually having that conversation with yourself. I have a lot of times clients say, well, I talk to myself. Am I crazy? No, you're not. You're thinking out loud, and that is perfectly fine. That is not what we mean when we ask, are you hearing voices? No, talking to yourself is perfectly fine. And that's oftentimes what you need to do to reframe again these negative thoughts into positive ones. So once you identify, why can't I do this? Oh, wait, I can do this. All right, I'm going to do this. Or maybe you just need to identify supports that will help you accomplish these goals. So just talking that out, increasing that self-awareness by journaling. Again, that is just a great way to limit your negative talk, right? It's really easy to talk negatively to yourself constantly. But when you put pen to paper, you're a little bit more realistic about what's going on with yourself, what you're feeling, and it also slows down your thought process. We think faster than we can write. When we slow down our thoughts to the speed of how quickly we can write, we often find ourselves slowing down and spiraling less. For parents, create positive spaces. A lot of times kids just need a place to talk about what they are feeling. So rather than telling your kids what they're feeling or inferring what they may be feeling, ask them about it. Let them talk to you. Let them just talk. Even if you don't agree with why they're feeling the way that they are, the causes of that. A lot of times they just want to be heard. And it's your job kind of to go in there and monitor some of that. And when you do hear that negative self-talk or some of these negative held beliefs, help dispel them, help pull them apart, um, and really create a more realistic outlook for your child. Um, so with that said, you can create SMART goals for yourself or others. Not only are they SMART goals, but SMART goals stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. So creating specific goals when you feel like you are at the bottom of a huge hill you need to climb, creating small specific goals like, okay, I need to climb 2 feet. That means I have to put 2 feet in front of it, 1 foot in front of the other. I need to measure it by like 10 feet, making those goals you need to attain measurable. All right. I have a specific assignment due. Okay, I need to work on XYZ first by, you know, in the next 7 days. Is this attainable? Yes. Is it realistic? Do I have my time around it? And then, is it objective? Like, is it going to, not only is it good or bad, but what parts of it are good, what parts of it are bad, or what parts need to be worked on. And then, of course, once those goals are met, celebrating those small goals, celebrating those small wins and important milestones. I think a lot of times our community is not the best at celebrating some of those important milestones, um, or because we feel like it's just expected. I know a lot of kids that I grew up with who high school graduation was not a big deal in their family. It was expected. So a lot of times it was just not treated with the grandeur or, um, I guess importance that we hold it here. And so a lot of times when you don't celebrate those goals or those milestones, kids and individuals feel like, well, what's the point? Um, because of cultural differences and such. But it's really important to celebrate those small wins because there is that rewarding feeling that you get from that. And kind of creating that chase for that rewarding feeling can really help us get unstuck from this. And so, with that said, self care. So sometimes you have to break away from traditional norms or family norms in order to create these spaces or this time of self-care, right? So self-care isn't just face masks and massages and stuff like that. Sometimes that is boundaries or doing what you want to do within reason, of course. So let's say, again, going back to celebrating small wins. If no one else is going to celebrate it, you celebrate it. That is going to be your self-care. Treat yourself or give yourself the recognition that you deserve. So just to kind of go over learned helplessness again, It's just kind of this idea that a fear takes root into someone, whether that fear has basis or not. Um, Time goes by, ability changes. So their ability to do something, their environment changes, or their support systems change. However, that fear still remains. And so they feel like they can't do something. One of like the best examples I have of this is I have a friend's dog who is not allowed to go upstairs. So they use those little, toddler barriers on the stairs, right? Dog mom always went up there and put up the barrier. Dog did not like climbing on it, did not like touching it, did not go by. Well, towards like after a year, all mom had to do was just stick it on the wall, not even secure it, and the dog still wouldn't go by. The dog still felt like they couldn't go past that barrier. So I'd like to just think of that as like, all right, what barriers have changed, or how have you changed? Has the dog gotten bigger to jump over that barrier? Is not trying, but still thinking that barrier exists, or it still has the same strength that it does. So another just interesting thing, it's there's new research now on learned helplessness amongst refugee populations. I think that's very interesting for our community, and how the times have changed, and how refugees were once allowed into this country versus how they are now, or how they've been allowed in the last few years. So um, and what has determined that. So whether it's war, environment, famine, and how people just have had to adapt to their new environment, to their changing environments, but also this idea of like, all right, well, I've helped myself this far. Now I don't know what to do next. Or I've had to share this like terrible story of how I got here over and over again, in order to get here. And now I realize that like my helpless story is what is helping me. So you kind of see a little bit of learned helplessness. Again, that's new and developing um, research, so I won't touch on it too much, but it's definitely something to read into. And that's all I have for today. So this is a very just interesting topic. It's not, um, we don't talk about it a lot. It's not it's something very different because it puts a lot of responsibility on an individual.
Yeah, I agree. We don't talk about it a lot, which is why it may feel a little foreign to some people. But as you were explaining about the idea of this learned helplessness, I'm sure we all know someone who has suffered from that, if not ourselves.
Mhm.
And with that, I have a question. If you notice signs of a loved one struggling with mental illness,
Mhm.
um, but are not willing to discuss the treatment, what can you do? Like if you see somebody maybe along this path of this learned helplessness,
Mhm.
but are
and
not.
and and learned helplessness is no it has been researched to lead to depression, so we can use that as an
Yes,
example.
yes, exactly.
So you see someone kind of struggling with depression, but they're not willing to talk to you about treatment. It's important to respect a person's privacy, and just provide them with those resources, right? So whether it's saying, hey, here's Olive Branch's number, you call them, you do what you need to do, they're here. um, or setting your own boundaries. I know this is really difficult for a lot of people. Our friends are not our therapists, so um, therapy and any sort of medical advice or help, there's a treatment plan. We talked about SMART goals, right? So there are measurable, they're measurable, and they are time bound goals and setting. We don't do that with our friends. We vent to our friends, and that is not therapy. So again, sometimes you just have to draw those boundaries. Like, look, you and I have been talking about how you've been feeling for a very long time. And being honest with, I'm limited to how much I can help you, but here are people who can, or here is a resource that can. And that like additional step that you add on there makes all the difference. Um, Again, it makes a person feel like they have options, and they may not be telling you, this may be your best friend, they might not be telling you everything that is kind of holding them back, or and being honest with that is saying like, hey, there's stuff you don't want to talk to me about, but there are people out there that are bound by ethical standards to keep your information confidential. Another thing is just reminding ourselves that therapy is not for crazy people. It's for anyone that wants to improve their daily function, to better themselves, to work on things again that they don't feel comfortable talking about to others. We have clients here that work on everything from generalized anxiety, depression, um, to just improving performance at work. My boss told me that I am slacking, or that I need to improve in this area. We can help you identify some of those strengths and areas of opportunity to work on. So just again, redirecting them to places that can help them with some sort of goals in mind. I don't want to say treatment plan. You don't have to say treatment plan to your friends, but hey, here's some goal setting, goal work um, that we can work on, or that you can work on.
And in that same vein, I mean, how do you know? Um, how do you make the decision that that you need outside help, that you can't do it yourself? How do you make that decision? How do you know what at what point?
Yeah, I definitely want to just say from the first thought of having it, right? I think that is the easiest answer for me to say. Um, but we don't have to suffer. We do not have to suffer. We do not have to get to the breaking point of how we're feeling in order to seek help, right? You can go preventatively. I love this about what I'm seeing now is a lot of parents who may be going through divorce. Hey, we have a great amicable divorce, it's a separation, but we want to get our kids in therapy because we just want to stay ahead of this, right? So there's never like a bad time to go seek help or seek therapy. Um, if you can get it on the preventative time. I love recommending expectant mothers and soon to be fathers to go get therapy, to go seek help, because we often hear postpartum depression, but it's actually part of a bigger called peripartum depression, meaning around the time of um, of of delivery or having a child, that we start to feel baby blues, that we start to feel, and it's not just the mom, it's the dad too. So just there's never a bad time, right? There's never a point where you need to just go. If the thought comes in your mind, if you want to just try it out, like trying new food, dabble in it, and see how it makes you feel.
And finally, if someone wanted to take advantage of the services that you offer at
Mhm.
Olive Branch, how do they go about doing that?
So they can reach out to us. Let me see. One of
Put you on the spot.
three ways. Yeah, sorry, one of three ways. You can reach out to us at olivebranch.org/contact. And we have a little online contact form with our information there, and you kind of just provide your contact information. You'll be contacted. You can reach out to us via email at contact@olivebranchhouston.org, or simply by giving us a call at 832-617-8160. And that is 832-617-8160. You can also visit our Facebook page, Instagram, all that info is there as well, for any sort of assistance. And I know I said I would mention our case management services again. Again, that is not mental health counseling. What that is basically professional goal management. So you come in there, or you come in here and you say, all right, I have these goals I need to work on. And I just need some help. I need some guidance. I don't know where to go everywhere for resources, and we will come in and help with that. So even if it's just like, again, just making some sort of organization to your thoughts or your plans, that will be able to help with that.
Very good. Thank you, Sister Yalda Ahmadi, for your important, impactful presentation. And thank you all for tuning in to Family First Center's weekly Wednesday webinar. Be sure to meet us here each week, where we'll be discussing a different topic every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Thank you again. Assalamu alaikum.